I'm super excited because we're almost at kickoff day for Saturday's coming up, and we've got one of the biggest games it's been a very short season, but this is one of the biggest games. This is one that a lot of us have had highlighted for a while here. We've got Texas traveling to the Big House, Texas at Michigan. The spread is Texas. It's -7.5 at the moment. The total is at 43. Michigan money line is at right about +225. But just kind of want to talk about, this is a huge game. And we haven't seen, I was going to say hyperbole. Both these teams are, coming off absolutely fantastic seasons. And someone's getting an early L this year. And my money is just to ride it with the favorite. I kind of think Texas takes care of business. I lean Texas plus the point. Whatever the spread, give it to me. 10 points feels fine. I just don't believe in Michigan that much this year. Am I overlooking a really nasty defense and what possibly could be a solid offensive line that can run the football and take care of business? Or do you think that, given what we just saw with Fresno State, Michigan could struggle a little bit here and maybe Texas is a rather comfortable favorite here?
I think it's dead on that they should be a rather comfortable favorite here. I think that I've got major questions about Michigan's offensive line. I've got major questions about the offense as a whole. I actually wrote them up a little bit this weekend, just breaking down how awful their offense was. And yes, it was Fresno State. And yes, you could argue that they weren't trying to give away much as well. Like kind of same with Oregon. And they didn't have to because Will Johnson had a pick six and Zeke Berry, their new kind of slot hybrid, had an interception as well. And so they just kind of ran away with it and they were fine. But at the same time, they just couldn't move the ball outside of a couple explosive runs from Quillel Mullings, not Donovan Edwards, and some decent reception work out of Colston Loveland. They had nothing at all on offense. Davis Warren, the former walk-on with a really cool story. He's not even a power conference starting quarterback. Basically at this point, something has to happen. He has to get a lot better. They have to have more weapons than just Colston Loveland and 2 carries out of 15 for Quillel Mullings doing anything to show up. They need Donovan Edwards to actually show up. They need to commit to Alex Orji actually at quarterback, not Davis Warren, because Alex Orji is actually a fun dual threat. He was in for some of the game. He had 2 pass attempts and a touchdown, had 5 carries for over 30 yards. And they just need to give him the ball. Even if he's not a perfect passer, he can execute and be a bigger problem to account for opposing defenses. And if they don't do that, they don't just immediately give the reins over to Alex Orji and shift and find somebody to step up against Texas. Ideally, that's Tyler Morris, their wide receiver. And the Michigan offensive line gets way better. Immediately, they're going to get absolutely freaking crushed by Texas by a lot. And it will not be close for a moment because Michigan has the worst offense through week 1 in the entire Big Ten. Not Northwestern, not Iowa, not anybody else, not Rutgers. It's Michigan. And that's a problem.
Yeah, and it's funny because, I wouldn't have known this if we hadn't talked about Oregon, Idaho earlier, but Idaho averaged 4.6 yards per play, which I know is just one stat of many. But Michigan was at 4.4. So even Idaho against Oregon was more successful on a play-by-play basis, which is wild.
That ranks 122nd, by the way, in FBS in terms of yards per play. 122nd, Michigan. So that's especially frustrating given they just came off of a first-round quarterback, a day 2 running back, all these talented players everywhere, and now they can't even move the football. They really need a major bounce back to come out of nowhere. Otherwise, it's just going to be a really frustrating season for the defending national champions.
So does Fresno State have anything that we're oh, okay, maybe it's because this one matchup, their D tackle is huge, and I obviously not watched much of the Fresno State Michigan game. I was on Fresno State and I was on the under, and somehow, both hit.
Yeah. No, they're not good. They, like many G5 teams, they kind of got picked apart. And so they don't really have anybody to get excited about. threw multiple picks, and they don't have. I guess Malik Sherrod, the running back, he's decent, but for like college fantasy purposes, not really like NFL projection.
Sure, but it's not like Fresno State's got some awesome defensive front seven that really was able to just slow down Michigan. Like Texas is going to be able to do a lot more pushing around, I would imagine. So let's talk about Texas a little bit, because it sounds like you're real down on Michigan, especially offensively, and rightfully so. Texas looked really good in stretches. I mean, Arch Manning had a nice little performance himself. I think he went like 5 for 6 and threw a touchdown. So you got to love that. But Quinn Ewers, of course, looked good. Running the ball, I was interested to see who got some run outside of Jaden Blue, and it looks like they found a guy.
Yeah, Jarrett Gibson was actually for a while the running back one in his recruiting class, and so I'm not surprised. The IMG Academy product is actually stepping up, and it's probably going to be a real deal, kind of like 1B with Jaden Blue. And so I would like to see Jaden Blue just carry. And I think he's going to be the feature in closer games for sure. But it's great to see Trey Wisner come in and get a touchdown. And he was kind of a legit recruit himself. And Jarrett Gibson to look explosive and fun. So they've got really a trio of running backs that they can really rely on, despite the injury to Christian Clark and CJ Baxter, both in the backfield. So the skill talent looks really good in the backfield. Both quarterbacks look like it doesn't matter which one starts, they're going to win a lot of games. And then just to see some really fun wide receivers touchdown with Isaiah Bond, where he burned the guy so bad he had time to adjust his face mask. And so,
yes,
he literally, the guy about pulled his helmet off at the line of scrimmage, and he went inside left. I mean, like, you realize how bad you have to beat somebody. You start off your route running inside on your stem, and you stack them so hard, like within not even 10 yards of the line, and you run like corner pylon, and you're just wide open. Like, it's hard to describe. If you didn't see the play, Isaiah Bond is just it looked like a first round wide receiver kind of play. So really excited to see what he brings. Matthew Golden had a couple scores. The second one wasn't as impressive as the first, but like it was just kind of like a short route. But he looks like he's kind of their second option. But they're just really deep all across the board. We kind of talked about this on other shows, but with Silas Bolden on the little pitch play from Manning for the touchdown, and Ryan Wingo, the true freshman, actually having more yards than anyone, incredible. So they just have so many guys that they can trust on offense. Really tough to stop. And then when you got guys on defense like Anthony Hill Jr. at linebacker, who might be the best linebacker in the entire sport as a true sophomore, and you got a handful of edge rushers that you can trust. And it was good to see Colin Simmons get some snaps. They're true freshman, like fringe 5-star kind of player off the edge, because they needed somebody to kind of step up there as well to give them depth, and they got it. So like every layer of the defense, they just don't have many questions. Even the younger guys, like Malik Muhammad and Derek Williams Jr., like they're just stepping up and looking good, looking like some of the best in the country.
So we're smashing Texas -7.5. It sounds like, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I'd be fine all the way up to like almost 2 touchdowns. That a model wouldn't tell you that much because of like historicals, like recent stuff. You would, at this point, you're still baking in some of the pedigree, some of like recent success with a lot of the models, but that's not properly adjusting for how bad Michigan probably is at this point.
Yeah, and also how good Texas is. And you mentioned depth. Like, yeah, at running back, they're starting to get a little thin, but at wide receiver, they're really they're really deep. At quarterback, they're deep. Like they can do a lot. Something I liked seeing too was the involvement that the running backs had in the passing game as well. It was nice to see that they didn't give that up, because last year we saw a lot of that too. So I just think it's a real tough matchup for Michigan, especially this early in the year. They haven't really settled in on, I mean, I know what they want their offensive identity to be, but to your point, with Orji not in there, I think it makes them much less dynamic running the football. So to me, I think Texas is going to be able to load up that box and try to see if you can beat them on the corners, and I don't think they'll be able to. So to me, I think, yeah, Texas is going to be one of my favorite plays this weekend.
Right there with you, man. I just this should be a big marquee game that is winnable for Michigan, and it's just not going to be.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm not on the over is because I could see Michigan not doing their part. Like I could see
Yeah,
them really
just
struggling to score.
just not scoring even.
Like I could. People are gonna hate this. Clip this and send it to me. 31-7 is a very likely outcome.
That's definitely in the cards. It really
Yeah.
is. Like that's gonna look foolish after this, but
Yeah,
sorry,
31-7.
it's just
I'm gonna bet the exact score and retire and be
oh
happy.
man.